Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to Invisible Condition. It's not all in your head. My name is Jeff Pearson. I'm your host, and we want everybody with an invisible condition, no matter what that condition is, to know beyond the shadow of a doubt that you do have a voice, you have a community, and you are never alone. And I am very excited to introduce you to my guest today. Alex Hristov is a former software engineer with 2 bachelor degrees. He's got me balanced out. I didn't finish college, so right on. More bachelor degrees out there is good. Due to an undiagnosed medical tongue twister there, undiagnosed medical condition, he spent 5 years in bed. Not great for anybody. Alex utilized cognitive reframing techniques to keep going, and he used engineering principles to diagnose himself, which I think is pretty impressive. That's pretty awesome. He created his own recovery regime, and in 2022, after 5 years in bed, he took his first 4-minute walk outside of the house. Whew. We're going to hear a good story today, guys, I promise. Since that first short walk, he has continued to heal and now is a wellness and confidence coach who helps motivated men and women become the most awesome version of themselves. Let's bring him on the show. I can't wait for you to meet him. Oh my gosh, Alex. All right. Hey, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for doing this and for being here. Appreciate it.
Hey, Jeff. How you doing?
Oh, this is awesome. Good, man. This is great. Man, I can't wait to dive into your story because people are probably hearing 5 years in bed and go, what? What in the world?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
It's pretty mental, even for me, even though
Right?
I lived it.
Right. So take us back to the beginning, man. How did you first realize something was wrong? What symptoms did you have? And what was the initial reaction from like doctors that you went to? I'm sure you went to doctors to try to figure it out.
I went to a lot of doctors. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did it all start? So my earliest memory of this was back in 2017. I was driving to work, and a really weird thing happened where I turned my head to the left because I wanted to change lanes, right? So I turned my head to see if there was a car there. And that transition between looking forward through the front windshield to looking to the side, that transition itself was gone. So it was one moment I'm looking forward, and the next moment I'm looking at a completely different view in a completely different direction.
Yeah.
Very weird, very destabilizing. But, you know, at the time I was still relatively young, let's say 30. And, you know, when you're 30, you don't really think about things too much, right? So it was kind of like, okay, whatever, you know, a short circuit somewhere in the matrix, whatever, move on.
There you go. Yeah.
And I didn't think much of it. However, that started happening more and more often. And I started getting other symptoms. I started getting lightheaded all the time. I started getting dizzy from time to time. And things started getting worse. So, you know, I kind of brushed it off for 3 years. And then by 2010, things had started getting serious enough to where I thought, okay, I need some medical help. So 2010 is the first time I went to see a doctor. And, you know, had various tests, you know, got on a treadmill, had my heart checked, had various scans, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, nothing's wrong. It's probably stress. It's probably anxiety. I said, okay. I mean, sounds legit, right? They can't find anything. It's stress and anxiety.
Sure. I mean,
so life moves on.
Yeah.
But things got worse and worse. And so I started seeing more and more doctors. And the story was the same every time, right? Oh, it's stress, it's anxiety, because I did have a lot of anxiety because, you know, living essentially with a gun at your head and not knowing when it's going to go off. You know it's going to go off. You don't know when.
Yeah.
Right? When is this weird thing that's happening to me going to hit me next? Right? Am I okay to go to work? Am I okay to go out with my wife, to go see friends, to do whatever, to drive, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Driving, you know, I got to tell you, driving was at times incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
And I knew that I shouldn't be on the road, but I had no way for anyone to validate that, right? Because everybody kept saying there's nothing wrong with you. So I had two choices. One choice is stop working, which is not a choice, right?
Right.
The other was just do the best I can, which is what I did. You know, I'd get in the car and it was 100% focus, stay within the lanes, don't hit anything. Get to work, do your things, you know, make it through somehow, and then get back home. So yeah, a lot of anxiety. And they kept telling me, oh, it's your anxiety, it's your anxiety. And, you know, I kind of had this because I've had anxiety in the past. So initially I took that as a legitimate thing, right?
Sure.
What I hadn't reasoned through yet was that it wasn't a matter of having anxiety and then feeling weird symptoms. It was having anxiety because I don't know when these symptoms will start.
Right. Yes, anxiety because of the uncertainty of the symptoms, not
correct.
The anxiety wasn't the symptom. It was the reaction. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
The anxiety of a symptom of something else, right?
Right.
Or a preparation for a symptom. So things went on like that to the point where the last couple of years of my marriage were extremely difficult because my wife had a husband who basically stopped functioning, right? All my energy, all my focus went into get to work, somehow be competent enough to stay employed, and then get back home.
Right. And then crash.
And once I'm home, I crash.
Yeah.
I crash. It's roiling anxiety. There were a couple times I thought I actually had heart attacks. You know, called 911. Turned out it's a panic attack.
Oof.
Just terrible scenario. So by mid 2017, after now having been to doctors and specialists and yada yada for 7 years, and everybody's saying there's nothing wrong with you. Things got so bad I was no longer able to work. I had to stop working. My family and my ex-wife decided that I'm a hypochondriac. My ex-wife decided that having a hypochondriac as her husband is not her version of living a good life, so off she went. And by this time, symptoms were really bad. I had really weird things happening. Like I would walk down the street, you know, smooth pavement, and I would take a step, I'd put my foot down, and it would feel like my foot goes in a hole. You know, just weird stuff, really weird stuff.
Yeah.
Started getting constant headaches. The dizziness became more prevalent. Started, you know, getting on the verge of passing out. Eventually I did start passing out. You know, ended up in the emergency room several times where they said, oh, there's nothing wrong with you. Off you go. To which my reply was, okay, well, when I walk out that door, if I keel over on the pavement, what then? Well, we're just going to bring you back in.
Let's just bring you back.
Well, okay.
Oh, come on.
But I mean, that just happened, right? I keeled over and I came in here.
Yeah.
And what did you tell me? There's nothing wrong. So what you're telling me is it's ridiculous. It's useless.
Yeah.
I'm having a very difficult time not using colorful words right now.
Yeah, I appreciate that, by the way. We're on TV, so I appreciate that very much.
Yeah.
I know it's hard when you're talking about this kind of stuff. Believe me, I know it's hard.
Yes.
So, but
difficult.
I can hear them in my head. So.
Yeah. Everybody who's watching or listening, just inject those.
Fill in the blank.
Places.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the end of 2017, I ended up no longer able to go to the grocery store to buy myself food. No longer able to stand in front of the oven to cook for myself. Just very basic things. No longer able to really go outside. I mean, yes, I could walk out the door and just kind of take a few steps around. But the sheer anxiety about, I don't want to keel over on some random sidewalk,
Right.
prevented me from really doing anything. So I became, for all intents and purposes, completely, what's the word I'm looking for?
Homebound.
Useless.
I was thinking homebound, but sure. Okay. Yeah. Stuck at home.
Either or works.
Yeah. Maybe they're, yeah.
Yeah. So I ended up moving back into my parents' house, where I spent the next 5 years. During which time, and one of the reasons I wanted to come on and talk on this show. So during that time, I was in various online support groups, right? And I met a lot of people suffering with various difficult situations. And one of the things I noticed right away is that a large percentage of people don't know how to cope and don't know how to work themselves out of that situation, or how to work with it to better their circumstances in some way, right? Because when you're really messed up, it's very difficult to work yourself out of it. It's very difficult to find joy.
And I'm sorry, I just gotta throw this out there. What was it that ended up being, first of all, what was the thing that actually that they landed on finally? Like, what was it?
Well, there is no they, it was me.
Or you. Yeah.
What ended up happening.
You. Yeah.
Yeah. That they, again, I have nothing nice to say about they, so we won't talk about it.
We could go for a little bit on some of the downfalls of they, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get into
We'll skip over that part.
We'll skip over that for now. Ultimately, what happened was, and it's funny looking back, these symptoms started in 2007. 2007 is when I bought my first laptop.
Okay.
So, software engineer, spent the majority of my time in front of the computer.
Yeah.
And when I wasn't working, I was in front of the computer anyway. Right. And apparently the muscles in my shoulders and my neck became so tight that they were putting pressure on blood vessels. So I wasn't getting enough blood to my head. And they were putting pressure on nerves in the neck, which got inflamed and then started causing weird stuff. So all these weird sensations that I would feel, those were inflamed nerves, right? And the problem is that this happened so slowly over such a long period of time, that I never realized it, right? It wasn't like an accident where, I was normal before this, and then after this, I wasn't, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was so gradual. Yeah.
It's so gradual over such a long period of time that, again, I never noticed it. The fact that my muscles were so tight, for me, that was the norm. I didn't know they were tight. They just were. So in that sense, I understand why the medical professionals didn't find anything, because there are very few useful tests when it comes to soft tissue.
Yes, that's true.
So that was the major problem. My disappointment comes in the fact that nobody was interested enough to look deeper, to look beyond the general test that everybody gives you, or to believe me in any way. Right. So, okay, you do a bunch of scans and things and everything comes back normal. But if I keep telling you something is wrong, I swear it's not in my head. I know what anxiety is. I know how I react to anxiety. This is not that. This is different. There's something else going on, and it's real and it's physical.
Yeah.
Right. I can tell that when I turn my head, weird things happen. I'm sorry, but that's not anxiety. Right.
Well, and anywhere else in the body, they would probably recognize that and say, oh, that's a pinched nerve. If that was in your leg, or if that was in your shoulder, or in your, they would, they would say, go see a chiropractor, go see a physical therapist, go whatever. And they would recognize it as something, right? I mean, just real quick, I just want to throw this out there, and I want to continue the story because this is getting crazy, but I just want to throw this out to the audience. Everybody out there that's watching, please tune in for this whole show, because there's so much that you're going to learn. And if you are relating to anything that Alex is saying, comment. If you're watching on Facebook, watch on YouTube. If you want to, anything, we're gonna. Oh, you know what? Here, I'm gonna put it up right here. You can contact Alex through here, through the QR code. If you have questions, reach out. You don't have to be specific. You don't have to, like spill the beans or anything, or tell us all your, the details. Just say, I would love to talk to Alex about this. I'm wondering if we're, experiencing something similar. So, and maybe he can point you in the right direction or help you out. So, anyway, just wanted to put that up there so that people could have an option to do that. So go ahead and finish keep going.
So again, the my huge disappointment with the healthcare system was that, okay, fine, there's not a specific test that will measure the tightness of a muscle. I get it. But people not believing you and telling you there's nothing wrong, and not having the interest to look further, right? That to me was very disappointing. Like, yes. I get it. Not everybody is curious, right? That's normal. You talk to any person in any walk of life, right? Some people are curious, some people less so. But seems like the medical profession should have clued into that. I mean, I had an experience like that too, and mine was legit too. I've got a condition that requires a piece of equipment literally being implanted in my brain, and that piece of equipment sometimes has to get replaced if it malfunctions or stops working properly. And so for 2 years in high school, my whole junior and senior year, I was having like mind-splitting headaches because that device was malfunctioning. And the doctors I was a 16-year-old kid when I started talking to them about it. So of course, what do you think they said? I got the same kind of stuff as you did for a long time, until they could finally compare some of the results of some of the CAT scans and x-rays and whatever. And then they were like, oh, maybe there might be something going on here. And I'm thinking, hello, it's only been 2 years, guys. So yeah, I can, on a small scale, I can relate to the being blown off. I mean, part of it was that's not a small scale. That's a pretty big scale. I mean, that's 2 years of your life.
Yeah, exactly. 2 years of high school. My last 2 years of high school, I was in excruciating pain. So I get it, man. I can relate. It's crazy. So man. Unbelievable. Well,
and, I meet and I talk to people who either have been or continue to go through the same thing. And this isn't a matter of like, I'm seeking these people out. It's just in regular life. I'll meet somebody, we'll start talking. Maybe I'll mention something. Maybe they'll mention something and they'll tell me the story. And I'm like, oh yeah, been there, done that. Like, I totally get it. And the weird thing for me about that is actually how prevalent that is.
Oh man. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's all over the place. It's kind of mind boggling,
It is.
So very. Now I do have to say something about that. In other words, I'm going to attempt to be even-handed. My best friend is a medical doctor.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time, probably unfairly so, giving him crap about being a doctor and doctors and the medical system and all that.
Yeah.
He bore the brunt of a lot of frustration.
Sure.
However, the one thing that it's not hard to understand, it takes time to accept.
Right.
The main thing I got from him was, listen, I have literally a quota, right? I need to see X many patients. Now, if I'm given half an hour per patient or 45 minutes per patient, 15 minutes to half an hour of that is taken up by the paperwork I have to do.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm actually left with 15 minutes to try to diagnose whatever your condition is.
Yeah.
And if I can't do it in that 15 minutes, the only thing I can do is go, okay, excuse me, is go, well, this seems to be in the realm of that, so I'm going to send you to that specialist.
Yep.
Right? So, in other words, I'm talking about curiosity.
Yeah.
Because when somebody's in a situation that's not clear cut, right? Whoever is dealing with that situation has to be curious. They have to care. They have to want to dig into it. They have to want to look at edge cases, and they have to have some interest.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, not everybody's like that. I get it. But the people who are like
not all medical professionals are created equal. That's for sure.
Well, it's not just medical professionals. It's engineers.
Oh, sure.
Right? It's artists. Sure. It's whoever. It's just how people are. I get it.
Yeah.
But the issue is that the way the medical system is set up, those people who are actually curious, who are sitting there going, you know what, this sounds interesting. I'd like to dig into it. Well, they can't, because they got that 15 minutes and then you got to go.
Right. Yeah, I know. It's crazy. It's the way of the medical profession, honestly, which is a whole nother topic and a whole nother, that's a huge ball of wax that we're not even going to attempt to tackle today, but I can relate 100%. Yeah. So, well, I tell you what, man, we're gonna this. I feel like this is a good spot for a break, so we're gonna go to a commercial or two. Let the sponsors have a little time and tell us what they're doing. And when we come back, guys, stick around. You do not want to miss this next segment, because we're gonna be talking about kind of how Alex came out on the other side and what he's doing despite going through all that. He's gone through this, but now he's coaching people along and helping so many people that need it, and so we're going to talk a lot more about that and how he's helping people on the other side of the break. So stick around, don't go anywhere. We'll see you in just a couple of minutes.
Hey there. Every time someone comes into your business or website and uses their card to pay, a percentage of that gets folded back into the system. But it can go to Hydro with Hope instead. If you'd like your business to support us rather than feed back into the system, scan the QR code and we'll show you how to do that while saving your business money.
Hi, I'm Jake, co-founder and CEO of One Hope. My friends and I started this company in 2007 out of the back of this truck on a mission to enrich people's lives through wine.
Today, we've grown into a state-of-the-art Napa Valley winery that proudly houses a portfolio of award-winning wines which have touched lives through over 40,000 nonprofits at home and around the globe. And it's happening every day. Being rooted in local communities and contributing to initiatives that uplift neighborhoods, celebrate cultures, and promote community. It's what got us here. You see, through every bottle sold, your purchase can make a direct impact on the causes you care about. One Hope's cause of choice has given back over $10 million and counting.
Hi everyone, I'm Andy.
And I'm Minna.
We're the hosts of Chronically Healthy Life.
Join us Fridays at 7 p.m. Central Time on Vitality TV to see how we flip the idea of chronic on its head and create chronic health in our bodies, minds, finances, and relationships right here on E360 TV.
Hey, everybody, before we bring Alex back to tell the rest of his story and talk about all the amazing things he's doing, I would like to talk to you about a community that is out there that my wife and I have launched. And I'll tell you what, it's called Invisible Condition University, or ICU. Don't worry, we're not lost in the irony there. We did it on purpose. We want to make sure that ICU is a good thing, and Invisible Condition University is here for that. And so it's something I wish I would have had like 10 years ago, when I had a whole bunch of surgeries stacked up back to back to back to back. And every time I had surgery, my wife and family were mostly on their own, honestly, because once you leave the hospital, they're great. I love surgeons and doctors, but once you leave that hospital, there's not a whole lot they can do for you. So then you're kind of left on your own. That's why we created ICU. We wanted to provide a place where people could, people like us, people like you, people like us could come and find community that listens, cares, walks with you, no matter what you're going through, no matter what it is, no matter what stage you're in of whatever you're dealing with. We meet on Zoom twice a month, the first and third Tuesday of every month at 3 p.m. Mountain Time. Our next call will be on Tuesday, September 3rd. And we want this to be a place where it is a safe place for patients and their caregivers to ask questions, vent frustrations, find information that they're not getting from the providers and their medical professionals. Join us. Join our growing community by going to InvisibleConditionUniversity.com or scanning the QR code. And you can become part of our community there. I would love to have you. I'd love to see you there. And we'll hopefully see you soon on September 3rd. So, all right, let's bring Alex back on here. All right, here we go, man. Here we go. We're back, and we're talking about some crazy stuff, man, because I know you're not the only. He cannot be the only one out here that has gone through mysterious stuff like this and not known what to do, right? So reach out if you've got questions, for sure. And where should we pick up here after 5 years of being
So,
like, you were bedridden for 5 years, and then in 2022 you finally were able to get out of bed, right? Where do we go from there?
Well, so here's the thing, and this is actually the reason why I wanted to come on here is I want to hopefully help people, first of all, cope with being in that situation.
Yes.
And second of all, how to approach. Now, there's a caveat here, right? Everybody's situations are different. Everybody's health issues are different. In my case, you could say I was lucky because my issue is reversible.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody's is, unfortunately.
Right. It's true.
But let's start with, how you cope, how you go through those days, those nights, just, that endless misery. Mm-hmm. So the two things so I call myself a wellness coach, right?
Yeah.
Wellness falls under the umbrella of life coach. In other words, when I work with clients, we work with whatever their individual specific challenges may be. However, I call myself a wellness coach because everything I do sits on a foundation of mental and physical health, right? Mm-hmm. So I'll start with the easy one. Okay. Regardless of what your situation is, either A, you have to live with it forever, or B, at some point, there may be a cure, or there may be some other kind of, answers that will help things. Mm-hmm. Regardless of what your version is, you're always going to need the body you have.
Yeah, it's the only one you got. Yeah.
It's the only one you got. And unfortunately, it wastes away very, very quickly. Okay?
Yeah.
Very quickly. So when I was lying in bed all that time, there was very little I could actually do, right? My main issue was I couldn't be vertical, because as soon as I go vertical, these muscles tighten up to hold my head. And as soon as they tighten up, bad things start to happen.
Right.
So that's why I was in bed for so long.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my version of being active was, you can call it silly, but things like, well, I'm going to sit here and I'm just going to do this with my arms, right?
Sure.
I would often put on my headphones, put on some upbeat music, and simply clench my buttocks to the beat.
There you go.
Right? Just anything, literally anything. It's incredibly important. I mean, in 2022, I took my first walk outside. We're now 2 years removed from that. I am still in constant pain everywhere. I carry injuries, and I have new injuries all the time in all various parts of my body, because my body didn't get very much use for half a decade.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know for how long I will continue to easily injure myself for no reason whatsoever, for how long all this pain is going to go on for. I don't know. I hope that maybe in a couple of years I'll be fully recovered. But
Sure.
The point is, the body wastes away very quickly. You're going to need that body.
Yeah.
Right? No matter how miserable you are, you will need that body. And if you do, at some point end up having answers and having a solution to your problems, you're really going to need that body then, because you will want to live life to the fullest.
Oh, yeah.
And you cannot live life to the fullest if you're unable to stand for more than 20 minutes, for example.
Right. Yeah.
So be active as much as you can within your circumstances. Obviously, don't hurt yourself.
Right.
Been there, done that endlessly. I overdo things all the time. It's one of the reasons I constantly have injuries and pain.
Yeah.
I can't help myself. I gotta live. Right?
So, yeah. Yeah. Of course.
But within your circumstances, be active as much as you can be. That's number one. Number two, so the medical term for this, or the psychological term, is cognitive reframing. The common term is perspective.
There you go. Yeah.
So perspective is the mental side of wellness. And in terms of coping with circumstances like that, first of all, you have to have hope, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you almost have to manufacture hope out of nothing, out of thin air. So in my case, sometimes, yeah. So in my case, this was very early on. This was in 2017, as everything was disintegrating around me.
Yeah.
I found myself whenever I would think of the future, whatever the future may be, a day, a week, a year, 10 years down the road, in my mind's eye, all I saw was this narrow, dark corridor. And that's it, nothing else. Incredibly depressing.
Can be.
So the very first thing I decided was, I have to stop this thinking, because I'm going to off myself, right? I cannot live like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, and at the time I didn't know anything about cognitive reframing or anything like that. Like I had tried in the past, like probably we all do, people tell you, appreciate the little things in life. So as I'm going through these miserable days, still somewhat functional in life, and I'm like, I got to find happiness. Okay, I'm going to try to enjoy the little things. And I'd stare at a flower and expect some kind of wonderful moment to happen. And, it never did. Right?
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
But what I came up with this dark corridor, because now it was like, the stuff hit the fan.
Yeah,
Like it's not
sure.
a joke anymore. This is literally a life or death thing. So, I thought about these things that you hear. Oh, imagine a nice future and this and that, and I'm sitting there thinking, well, how can I imagine this? That's the farthest thing from my reality, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, what are the mental gymnastics I have to do here? And it took me, I don't know, a month or two, and it finally dawned on me that, well, hold on a second here. I can't see the future. As far as I know, nobody can see the future, right?
Right.
So since I can't see the future, I can't say for certainty that it's a dark, narrow corridor.
No.
Right? For all I know, it could be the exact opposite. So in my mind, what is the opposite of a dark, narrow corridor? Well, it's a sunny, green field, right?
Yeah.
So then I said, okay, I consider myself a fair person. So what I'm going to do is every time I have this dark thought, I'm going to say, okay, it's valid. I know why I'm having it, right? Because so this is important. You can't just say, oh, no, I don't feel that way. I don't feel that things are dark.
No, validate it. Sure. Yeah.
Right.
You
You
gotta.
have to validate it, because
Yeah.
if you just pretend it's not happening, well, that's the path to insanity, right?
Yeah.
So I said, okay, well, every time that happens, I'm going to say, okay, this is legit. This is real. I feel it. However, since I'm a fair person, I also owe it to myself to look at the other version of what the future may look like.
Nice.
And like anything in life, it takes practice.
Yes.
Because first of all, it takes practice to catch yourself being in that moment, having these thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens is kind of interesting. You catch yourself and you go, oh, wait, I'm supposed to think of this other thing now. And you try it and it feels fake and it feels stupid.
It feels
You're like,
weird.
this is silly. It feels weird.
Yeah.
What is this like mental mumbo jumbo? But because you have no choice, you keep doing it. And as you keep doing it, that negative thought, which used to dominate your thinking pattern,
Mm-hmm.
slowly starts to become a little bit smaller, and the positive thought starts to become a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
And actually the most interesting thing is you get to a point where at the very moment that negative thought starts, you immediately go, you know what? I don't have time for you right now.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm not interested. Because yes, I understand why you're there.
Yeah.
But I don't know that you're actually representative of reality, because again, I don't know the future.
Well, and because you could choose this reality over here instead. Right? I mean,
I'm not sure I want to go down that road of choosing realities. Right?
just a thought. Just a thought. We don't have to go down that road. I'm just saying, like, that's kind of, it sounded like that's kind of what you're saying. Like, okay, this is where your mind goes naturally, but you choose to
Yes,
give the other one a chance too,
Correct. The reason I'm a little bit sensitive about choosing realities is how do I put this? We all have a different perception of reality, obviously.
Right.
However, no matter what perceptions we all have, there is only one reality. Right?
Okay.
If my perception is that tomorrow when I get up, golden coins are going to start falling out of my ears. If I choose that to be my reality, good luck.
Right.
That's not the factual reality. So that's where I get a little bit weird when saying things like choosing your reality. I want to be very careful about what that means.
Sure. Yeah. And
Right.
yeah. And I'm I'm not trying to say anything like totally off the wall or anything, but
Yeah,
you know, but your attitude is the only thing you have 100% control over is all I'm
Correct.
saying. So if
Correct.
you want
Yes.
to, if you want to go down the road of, oh, I'm going to be in a dark tunnel or I'm going to be in a sunny meadow, that's your choice. Is
Correct.
all I'm
And that's
saying.
in that sense, absolutely 100%.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's one way to manufacture hope literally out of thin air is
Yep.
to simply choose it.
And and so when people click on that QR or scan that QR code, I mean, you're talking about being a wellness and confidence coach. So is this some of the stuff that you use to kind of walk people through with when they come to you, if somebody was coming to you with this type of situation and I don't know what to do, this is some of the stuff that you would help them with?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
Literally almost everything is a matter of perspective, right?
Right.
I'll give you an example. When I was working, I had this awful, what do you call it? Imposter syndrome. I don't know why, still to this day, I don't know why, but I had an imposter syndrome. At the time, I didn't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
So if somebody came to me and said, I have imposter syndrome, I would say, okay, how long have you worked in this place, right? In my case, I was there for a decade.
Yeah.
I had 4 promotions along the way and tripled my salary, right? So I must have been doing something right.
Sure.
And as they say, you can fool some of the people some of the time, but not all the people all the time. So if I was actually incompetent, sooner or later, somebody would have figured it out and they would have gotten rid of me, but they didn't, right? So if you come to me with, well, I have imposter syndrome, I go, okay, let's look at the reality. If the reality is you've spent a decade at this company and you know, you've gotten promotions and raises and blah, 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 then you're not an imposter. You're competent. You know what you're doing. So every time you get that little thought of, I don't belong here, they're going to figure me out. It's just like with the dark corridor and the meadow, right? You go, hold on a second here. Let me look at reality. And at first it feels very fake. Like, I really feel like an imposter. I really don't think I'm very good and they're going to figure it. I really feel that. It's real. It's so real. How can I just say it's not? But again, it takes practice. And the important thing is you override those bad thoughts with facts.
Mm-hmm.
Because facts you can't argue with. You cannot. Right? In the dark corridor versus sunny field version, the fact is I don't know what the future is. So it may be a sunny field, right? So like cognitive reframing is huge. It's critically important.
Yep.
So again, when you're struggling with this literally invisible condition, right? You have to find hope first of all.
Yes.
Another tool that I found, literally bombard yourself with things that inspire you.
Yeah. That's good stuff. Yep.
For me, it's other people's stories of personal triumphs.
Mm-hmm.
It was, in my case, I got a little bit hooked onto what was that Amazon show? All or Nothing.
There you go.
Where they embed reporters in some professional team and follow them throughout the season.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I got hooked onto that. I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's basically a soap opera for guys, which is fine, right? But for me, it was a little different. It was where the athletes who bubble up to the top,
mm-hmm.
where do they get that drive to day after day after day after day do just a little bit more than their competitors, right? Because those people are all so evenly matched.
Yep.
That
slight edge. Yeah.
It's that slight edge. You know, that's why underdogs can win.
Yep.
And, you know, so for me, it was like, well, where does that mentality come from?
Yeah.
Right. So find whatever inspires you and literally, literally bombard yourself with it.
I love it.
And the last thing is you have to be practical and proactive.
Yes.
Do not rely on the medical system. You may get lucky and they may find something and they may help you.
Yep.
But that may not happen.
It's possible. Yeah. They're
right.
Yeah, it's true. It's true in a lot of cases. Yeah, it is.
So you have to do your homework. You have to do
Yep.
research on whatever it is that you're struggling with. And
True.
I'm talking about deep research, right? Don't look at the. I'm trying to come up with an example. So, I'll use myself as an example. I don't.
So one second before we dive into that example, remember that example, because I do need to go to one more break.
Yeah, no
There's
problem.
a couple more things,
Yep.
and then we're gonna come back and finish up this, finish all this up, and there's a question I want to ask you too. But we're gonna just real quick. We're gonna go to one more break, and then we'll come back. Stick around because this is a good one. We'll be right back. Hold on one second. We'll see you soon.
Does your to-do list have you feeling stressed? Does your list include tasks like responding to email and phone calls, collecting forms and paperwork, and sending quotes and invoices? Have you been neglecting posting updates to your social media accounts, email newsletters, or content on your website? Maybe you need help to get digitally organized. I'm Selena, one of the owners at Office Mercenary, and we're a US-based virtual assistant agency. We can take care of all of these tasks and more so you can get back to focusing on the things you love about your business. Our team is happy to work with you and your individual needs. So schedule a call with us, bring your to-do list, and stop doing the tedious tasks.
In a world where office workers typically receive 130 daily emails and have an 8-second attention span, CoreCentrica, with her 4 decades of international marketing experience, has partnered with the Learning Code Institute and their 30 years of neuroscientific research. Together, we are crafting unique messaging strategies that resonate, connect, and ultimately convert our target audiences. CoreCentrica, where award-winning creativity and disruptive neuroscience come together. Scan this code now, or call and click, and let us show you how CoreCentrica's partnership with the Learning Code Institute is influencing how businesses connect with their audience, foster engagement, and achieve conversions.
All right, everybody, we are back, and we have about 7 or 8 minutes left. And you were in the middle of a story, and I want you to finish that story. But I also want to ask you a question to think about for the end of the story. I always ask everybody this, and I've heard you talk about this word, and so I'm really excited to hear what your answer is. In the days that you're still going through it, man. So you're not totally on the side of it yet. How do you on the really hard days? How do you actually find hope? That's my question. So if you want to tell me the rest of your story and then let me know, I'd be interested to hear the answer to that question.
So the rest of the story was I was going to give you an example of what I mean by being proactive and digging deep. Right. Yes. So 2022 took my first walk outside.
Yes.
The next year and a half, I started becoming more and more active. The beginning of this year, I became very active.
Nice.
And around the end of February, all of a sudden, I had, it was almost like a light switch. Pain across my entire body, mainly my legs. Pain to the point where I became almost housebound again. Okay. So naturally, I went to the doctors. They tested a bunch of things, blah, blah, blah. And they came up with, you have fibromyalgia.
Oh, geez.
And fibromyalgia has no known cure.
Right.
There's no known cause, right? It could be a myriad of things.
Yeah.
But the key is it has no known cure. And I was not okay with that. I simply wasn't okay.
Yeah.
Right. And I started digging into things. And I knew that I had issues with pain in my legs whenever I lay down to sleep.
Yeah.
Again, I'm very lucky. My best friend is a medical doctor. I kept,
Yeah.
bugging him and being annoying and all that. He said, well, it might be your sciatica nerve, stick something between your legs. So,
There you
okay.
go.
I normally use a pillow between my legs and it helps, but I figured, okay, I'm going to go hardcore with this. Went to Amazon and bought this massive foam triangle that's for pregnant women. I don't know how they use it, but they use it. I guess it's for the back support, whatever. I bought one of those things. It is huge. But I said, okay, I'm going to sleep with this between my legs from now on. And the pain started decreasing.
Nice.
And I found that very interesting. And I thought about, okay, all this pain that I'm feeling is the same kind of pain as what I feel in my legs. So in other words, everything I feel is nerve pain.
Yeah.
And so right there, you're like, oh, I'm going to go to a neurologist, yada, yada. No, forget the neurologist. Forget the neurologist. What actually happened? Because this started out of nowhere. What happened, right? And I look back, and it was the fact that all of a sudden I became very active.
Yeah.
In other words, my spine, for 5 years laid in bed, it didn't have to contend with gravity.
Right. Yeah.
The next year and a half, I was slowly becoming more active, but I was still resting a lot in bed or on the couch. And all of a sudden, I'm vertical. Well, where do all the nerves come from? They come from our spine, from between the vertebrae. I said, okay, let me see if I can do something about that. Started doing regular stretches, got a inversion table. All of a sudden, 2 months later, I'm almost pain-free.
Nice.
Right? So the point of all that is do your homework, dig into things.
Yeah.
What may be causing what I have? And not just the surface level of what may be causing it, but what's underneath that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You got to do your homework, and you have to have some clue of what you're talking about, because when you go to the doctor, you have to expect certain things of them.
Yep, exactly.
Right?
Yep.
I think we might be running out of time, so let me get
to a little bit. Yeah. So we've got about 2 minutes left. So with that, is there anything that you want to, we've got the QR code there. Is there any last minute contact thing you want to throw out there, or anything you want to leave the audience with?
Well, I'll leave them with your question, which was about hope.
Yeah.
So again, to manufacture hope out of nowhere, change your perspective. You don't know the future.
Yep.
Right? As much as you can, do your homework on what's troubling you. Right? It took me over a decade to figure it out.
Right.
But guess what? Here I am living life, and it's amazing. So it may take you a decade, but start doing it every day, right?
Yeah.
So as long as you're being proactive, as long as you're doing something that may pay off, feed off of that, right?
Yeah.
Feed off of that. And
awesome.
Something very important is don't expect miracles and don't expect things to get better tomorrow. They may, and if they do, fantastic. But don't expect that, because you're setting yourself up for disappointment.
Might take some work. Yeah.
Might take some work. Yep.
It's true. It's true. Most things worth having do require some work. Yeah. So, and that includes taking care of yourself. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So exactly, man. Well, hey, I feel like we needed another hour, man. But Alex,
we have a lot we can talk about.
We could have gone for a while, but thank you. What we talked about today, I hope was helpful to all of you, because this is a huge story. And if you need any help with any of this, please scan the QR code, reach out to Alex, or reach out to us too. So, but thank you, Alex. Thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate it. And
thanks, Jeff. It's been a pleasure, man.
You bet. You bet. Thank you. All right, everybody. Those kind of stories just get me, because I'm like, man, how does he live that long with that amount of pain? But some of us can relate, right? Some of us with invisible conditions can relate. So this was awesome. Join us next show, which is going to be Tuesday, September 3rd. which is also the next time that Invisible Condition University will be meeting at 3 p.m. Mountain Time. So if you haven't signed up, InvisibleConditionUniversity.com is the place to go to do that. And we will see you on Tuesday, September 3rd. In the meantime, like, follow, subscribe, all the things. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. Oops, there it is. Welcome to live TV, everybody. See you soon.